Something about Squidward has never made sense to me. Yes, we all joke about how miserable he is, how he hates his job, how he's basically a trapped office worker in a town full of lunatics. But for someone who practices the clarinet, studies art, and genuinely cares about culture as much as him, he's still been working the exact same job at the Krusty Krab for decades. Which is really weird because Squidward isn't some lazy, talentless guy. He actually puts the work in. He never skips work, despite all his complaining and Mr. Krabs' exploits. And he still finds time to practice his art. How come none of his efforts ever moves him forward? Most people just blame him, saying, well, Squidward is bitter, so he ruins his own chances. But that theory falls apart the second you look at the episodes where he finally does everything right and still loses. Luckily, after days of searching for the answer, I found one episode that strangely answers the question that's been hanging over Squidward's miserable fate. And when you know what it is, you won't look at it the same way again. At first, I thought the explanation would be simple. Just like people said, maybe Squidward fails because he makes everything feel miserable. He complains, criticizes, and basically rolls his eyes at everything. If you're that negative all the time, of course nothing good's gonna stick, right? That's the story people like to tell. Oh, he's his own worst enemy, or he's sabotaging himself. And honestly, I wanted to believe that too. I mean, it's a neat answer about Squidward's character, and it somewhat makes sense, at least on paper, because the show won't let you hold on to that idea for very long. There are lots of moments where Squidward actually tries to make it happen. In the episode Choir Boys, Squidward prepares for the audition for Bikini Bottom's men's choir. That indicates he's not a lazy person. The man shows up clean and ready just for someone else to steal the attention. SpongeBob. I mean, he kinda sucks in the auditions, so maybe this one is somewhat deserved. But then in Suction Cut Symphony, he managed to compose a full performance for the band and was chosen to conduct an entire piece. Even though somehow the final performance gets weirdly absurd. This shows us that Squidward actually has what it takes to make it on the big stage. Even when he isn't on stage, you can see the grind for art in his daily life. We see Squidward practice with lots of different media in Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost.
And now that I've been immortalized in wax, I have conquered all artistic media.
It's also not a secret that his house is filled with face paintings and sculptures. Episode Artist Unknown also proves Squidward has a license to teach an art class. I mean, Squidward clearly knows the technique and the theory. That's not even debatable. And of course, Band Geeks proves he's not some crazy weirdo that learns by himself. He and Squilliam were in the same high school band.
Squilliam fancy son from band class?
Well, one became a star. Meanwhile, the other ended up working a register. There are a lot more episodes referencing Squidward's knowledge of these subjects. I could make a long list of them.
The only surviving painting from the great lost city of Atlantis.
So yes, Squidward might complain at Krusty Krab about how miserable he is, but he isn't sitting on the couch doing nothing after working hours. He's out there learning and practicing, preparing for the big breakthrough that might come for him one day. Now, after reviewing all the proof of Squidward's artistic skill, the theory that Squidward is the problem doesn't really make sense. But that doesn't hide the fact that Squidward still hasn't succeeded. Why? Is Bikini Bottom just that unfair of a place to be? Yeah, maybe Bikini Bottom is the problem. This is a town that cheers for chaos, boosts people for existing, and celebrates public humiliation as a hobby. You see it in all kinds of episodes. Background fish losing their minds over the dumbest things. Crowds turning on someone in seconds. Even entire stadiums cheering for violence. Then maybe the answer is as simple as Squidward is a quiet, serious artist in a city that only cares about chaos. Of course he fails. And at first, some episodes really seem to back that up. Remember the episode Squidward? SpongeBob can't get Squidward to play with him. So instead, he makes a replica of Squidward out of wood to play with. And in just a few minutes, Squidward has gotten replaced by his own replica. But the part that's really weird to me is that everyone loves what Squidward does, even though Squidward could have done the same thing. Why is that?
Talk about no talent.
Maybe Squidward should get size reduction surgery.
Then in Suction Cup Symphony, there's a billboard for the Bikini Bottom Symphony Orchestra up outside his house, which means the town values good quality music, right? Like a real symphony. Sadly, after spending half the episode composing the music, Squidward ends up writing everything he heard that day. Then the performance turns into an accidental SpongeBob and Patrick gag. I mean, technically, the audience is still enjoying it, but the applause goes to the chaos instead of the composer.
Let us not forget the tubby starfish.
By the time you add smooth jazz at Bikini Bottom on top of that, it just starts to feel cruel. Squidward's favorite clarinetist, Kelpie G, comes to town for a big concert, and Squidward just wants to meet his idol and be seen as a fellow musician. Instead, it's SpongeBob that gets recognition with his ukulele. Meanwhile, Squidward gets dragged through by security, and Kelpie barely remembers him as a person. There are lots of other episodes like Culture Shock that follow this same pattern. No matter how hard Squidward tries to perform, SpongeBob or someone else will steal the spotlight. From Squidward's point of view, it looks like everyone is mean to him. So yeah, on the surface, the world is unfair to Squidward feels like a solid theory. The city rewards absurdity, punishes sincerity, and he just happens to be on the wrong side of that equation. But then something breaks that idea too, or more like the theory debunked itself. Because if Bikini Bottom truly hated art, if they truly despised anything serious or refined, then they wouldn't have a formal men's choir that Squidward auditions for, they wouldn't hold a symphony orchestra, there wouldn't be a whole TV program called House Fancy where people show off their interior designs to a host and a live audience. I mean, they have Kelpie G, the famous jazz clarinet player who clearly has a lot of fans. So I think this town absolutely does care about proper art. It appreciates music and performance and fancy things. Just not when Squidward is the one doing them. The House Fancy episode really proves that idea. The story is that Squidward is desperate to prove his home is just as elegant as Squilliam's, and for most of the episode, he fails to decorate the house to his taste. But when SpongeBob accidentally destroys his house, the host suddenly treats the wreck as brilliant avant-garde art, and Squidward gets crowned House Fancy Prince on the spot. It's truly bizarre, to say the least. And this only leads me to another suspicion. If the environment isn't the problem, and Squidward's effort isn't the problem, then I guess Squidward is missing the X factor. I mean, why does the same city that cheers for Squilliam, Kelpie G, and even SpongeBob's nonsense never respond the same way to Squidward, even when he's doing almost the exact same thing? Whatever the answer is, it isn't that he's lazy, and it isn't that the world hates art. It's something a lot uglier and a lot more familiar hiding in the middle. At this point, we end up staring at a much more uncomfortable possibility. Maybe the reason Squidward struggles to get noticed is because he's not really a noticeable person. That sounds weird, I know, but look at who succeeds in Bikini Bottom. Squilliam Fancyson is the definition of a character. Everything about him is designed to be seen. His unibrow, his fur coat, his absurdly expensive house, the fact that Squilliam even has a lot of rich friends. Squilliam could sneeze and get a standing ovation. I mean, his last name is Fancyson. That alone describes more about his character rather than something like tentacles. Now to think about it, Tortellini's not a bad last name for him. Then you have Kelpie G. The guy is soft-spoken, has fabulous hair and mustache, and of course, great music. So of course, he has a cult fan base. They loved him as a person. And then there's the best example of all, SpongeBob. He can accidentally interrupt a choir, mop up on the podium, or take over an entire concert and somehow the audience still cheers. You could argue that SpongeBob has natural talent when it comes to art, but it also proves that Bikini Bottom loves a strong character. The louder, stranger, more unpredictable you are, the more the city bends around you. SpongeBob and Squilliam make people turn their heads when they walk in. They just capture attention. Meanwhile, Squidward doesn't get that reaction because people barely notice him at all. And I'm sure all of you can feel something uncomfortable yet familiar by now. There's one episode where Squidward finally gets that X Factor and he's able to make everyone love him unconditionally. People often remember this one as a ridiculous, meme-worthy episode. But if you look at it from Squidward's point of view, especially in this context, it's the most revealing moment in the entire show, and the last nail in the coffin for our answer. Two Faces of Squidward from Season 4. Early on in the episode, a stupid workplace accident happens. SpongeBob opens a door too fast, Squidward gets smacked in the face, and suddenly his bones rearrange into beauty. Perfection even. Perfect symmetrical jawline, flowing facial features, it's a marble statue come to life. Of course, crowds gather pretty quickly, people scream just seeing him. Meanwhile, Squidward does nothing. He doesn't even have to try. People love him no matter what he does because they just want to admire the spectacle. Then suddenly, it becomes painfully clear. Squidward was never missing talent. He was missing charisma. That invisible, unfair stuff people respond to without thinking. This episode is basically screaming the answer in our faces. Because the moment his face collapses back to normal, poof, everything disappears with it. Just as fast and painful as it arrives, it vanishes. His face collapses back to normal, and the town instantly forgets him again. As awful and cliche as it sounds, that's the X Factor. He's failing because he's not interesting enough for this insane little town to look at. Ironically, this only enhances the biggest joke about Squidward, about him being relatable. The tired, overworked, and miserable adult can't get out of his low-wage job because he's not good-looking enough to make it big in art. Aren't we all? This means no matter how much he practices or learns or how many classes he takes to refine his art, he won't make it big, ever. Now I really understand how broken Squidward is when he loses that blonde hair. That blonde hair is the one reason Squidward hasn't made it big. Such a shame. As anticlimactic as that is, I fear that's the answer we need to solve this paradox. Squidward fails because Bikini Bottom only notices the loud, the bright, the beautiful, and the absurd. Meanwhile, Squidward is none of those things. Two Faces of Squidward feels so strange when you watch it in this context. Then again, I think that's why we have loved Squidward since the beginning. He's the only character in Bikini Bottom who deserves more and knows he won't get it. Yet he still gets up anyway, and that makes him stand out more than all the sparkle in the world. You know what? This whole charisma tragedy is also the reason people hate lots of modern SpongeBob episodes so vehemently. I mean, the same rule practically applies here, just in the opposite direction. Instead of Squidward not being noticed, the modern episode was desperate to be noticed. Loud, chaotic, frantic, trying so hard to get a reaction that it forgot to have a character. So if you want to see how a single episode can fall apart because it tried to force spectacle without anything behind it, I went deep into that one already. It's the modern SpongeBob episode that everyone hates. You'll understand what I mean when you watch it. I'll see you on the next dive.